Okay, today I want to go over that last packet for Unit 5. This is about phylogenetic trees. And again, this packet you are completing instead of coming to class. And here are the answers for this. Again, I hope that this is mostly a review of material you've learned in another class. So, phylogenetic trees. Referring back to Model 1A, how long ago did the common ancestor for all organisms of this phylogenetic tree exist? About 40 million years ago. Which two lines diverged 30 million years ago? That's the red panda raccoon line diverged from the bear line. C, list all modern descendants of the organism that was alive at the point indicated by the asterisk. That's the speckled, sloth, sun, black, polar, and brown bears. Number 2, according to Model 1, when did the giant panda line diverge from the line that led to modern bears? 15 to 20 million years ago. According to Model 1, what animal shares the most recent common ancestor with the brown bear? That's our polar bear. In a complete sentence, describe what the branch points and lines in a phylogenetic tree represent. So the branch points are the most recent common ancestor, and the lines represent the species that diverged from that common ancestor and how long ago the divergence occurred. Which of the two branches from the common ancestor in Model 1 has the most living descendants? That's the branch that leads to the bears. Number 6, according to the phylogenetic tree in Model 1, the red panda is most closely related to which animal? That's the raccoon. And number 7, which are most closely related to the giant panda and the red panda, or the giant panda and the polar bear? That's the giant panda with the polar bear because they share a more recent common ancestor about 20 million years ago, compared to the giant panda with the red panda, which is 35 million years ago. So that is looking at a tree. We can also compare our DNA sequences. So number 8 here, how many bases are found in each of the DNA samples? That's 21 bases. We're just counting. You're just counting up the letters. Using your knowledge of base pairing, which DNA sample from Model 2 will be 100% complementary to organism A? That's sample 3. And what other DNA sample in Model 2 is likely to pair with one of the strands in organism A? That's sample 1. So again, sample 3 is that perfect match. The next closest is going to be sample 1. How many of the total number of base pairs in the sample you chose are non-complementary? So how many don't match? That's 5. There are 5 errors. So number 12, we can calculate our sequence divergence this way. 5, which are non-matching, over the total 21 is about 24% approximately. Calculate the sequence divergence for the remaining 2. So again, we're just counting up the number of wrong answers, wrong non-matching pairs there. So sample 2, we get 12 out of 21 or 57%. And sample 4, we get 14 out of 21, which is approximately 67%. So if we're going from most homologous to least homologous, we're going to go 3, 1, 2, 4, because our sequence divergence is 0, 24, 57, and 67. Based on your previous knowledge of DNA, which sample from Model 2 is from an organism that's closely related to organism A? That would be sample 3. With your group, describe how DNA sequence divergence can give scientists information. So the exact answer may vary, but you want to give some reference to, again, the greater the sequence divergence, then the less the DNA sequence has in common, so the least related they are. Low divergence means that lots of mutations have occurred, right? So lots of time has passed. So then we can put a little phylogenetic tree. We have a common ancestor. The first branch point would be to sample 3, and then the next branch point would be sample 1, and then finally sample 2 and 4 would be at the bottom. Okay, Model 3 is asking us to do the same thing, but with just amino acids here. So this is showing you the 1-letter amino acid codes for a protein. And you could see up at the top that there are 40 amino acid positions total. Cytochrome C is a protein used in cellular respiration. Refer to Model 3 to answer the following questions. Number 18A, how many different species are represented? We have 8 species. It's coming down on the vertical here. What do the individual letters represent? Amino acids. C, what do the asterisks represent? That no amino acid is at that position. And then 19, circle the pairing of organisms from Model 3 that you predict would have the most divergence in their DNA. So this, This is going to vary depending on whatever you say, right? You could say whale and human for ocean versus land. You could say tuna versus a fly for ocean versus flying, whatever you want to say. Okay. Cytochrome C is a protein that's shared many organisms due to its vital role in cellular respiration. Over time, mutations have occurred that do not affect its function, right? These are neutral mutations. They're not changing how that protein works. By looking at these mutations, scientists can predict when the organism diverged from their common ancestor. So we're going to write down the number of differences between human and each of these species. So for tuna, we get 21 differences. Whale, we get 10. The monkey gives us 1. Chicken is 13. Pig is 10. Yeast is 45. And fly is 27. So based on this, the most closely related to us is the monkey, and the most distantly related is the yeast. And so from that, you can put a little tree together, again, from the most divergent down to the closest. So if we're starting at most divergent, the first thing to branch off is the yeast, then the fly, then the tuna, chicken, pig, whale, monkey, human. How do your predictions about relatedness based on either morphology, ecology, or lifestyle that you said in question 19 compare? So this would depend on what you picked before, right? How that would compare. We can then circle all of the mammals. So our mammals are our pigs, whales, monkeys, and humans. How does the tree illustrate the fact that those animals are all members of the same class? Well, these all diverged from a common ancestor, a more closely related common ancestor. Compare the differences in amino acid sequences among the mammals with differences in other animal classes. Is there a pattern? Yes, all the mammals have fewer differences between them compared to between groups, so there is more relatedness within that class. Should scientists infer evolutionary relationships based on the data from a single gene? So you could say, whatever you think, but the probably not, right? Probably not. We want to probably use multiple different genes, multiple proteins to try to find an evolutionary relationship. Okay. And then our extension question here, we're thinking about a molecular clock. And so you're going to have to make a little plot. You're going to draw a little line. And then based on that line, you want to give a value as percent divergence per million years. This is going to be our calibration number. I will accept anything that falls between 1 to 2% per million year. It'll depend on exactly how you draw that line, okay? And then depending on what you get from that, that'll determine what you get for 29. So the same gene, the same sequence divergence between chimpanzees and bonobos is 4.2%. Using our calibrated molecular clock, estimate the time. So 4.2 divided by whatever you put for question 28. So you'll get around 2.5, again, depending on your line. And the sequence divergence between humans and Neanderthals at the same gene is 1.2. So again, 1.2 divided by whatever you put for 28 gives you 0.7-ish. Okay, that is our last packet for Unit 5. I am going to put together a video for the last class, which is about the American eugenics movement, but that material will not be on your exam.